I think most football fans could probably tell you the favorite to go number one is Aiden Hutchinson, but I don't know that most could tell you who has the second best odds to go number one overall. That's this guy, Travon Walker, who had a sack in both playoff wins for Georgia on their way to the national championship game and then tested off the charts this spring. That's why he has exploded in the mock drafts. I mean, he went from somewhere around 20 or so to begin the month of March to a top 5, maybe even top overall pick. This is how he rose in Ryan Wilson's mock drafts, which he did each and every week throughout the month of March. And right now, the second betting favorite to go number one overall. Currently, he goes number 3 to the Texans in Ryan's latest mock draft, a full 7-rounder. Chris Hassel joined by Danny Kanell and Brady Quinn. I think it was you, Danny, that said a little bit earlier you're a little bit concerned that teams, scouts, maybe even the betting public is falling in love with what Walker did this spring as opposed to what he did each and every fall in Athens. What do you think of his rise?
It's remarkable, and I'll explain it to you. It's pretty easy. He's 6'5", 275 pounds. He ran a 4.51 40 at the combine. He had a vertical leap of 35 and a half. Like, this is superhuman type of stuff that you don't see of human beings that are that big. And it's not like the film isn't good. I mean, we just saw some highlights there. You can see the skill set that is there. But I do feel like he was probably middle of the first round when you just went off the tape and you watched what he did on a team that's superstars all over the place. But then you combine that film with a workout the way that, and do some of the things that he did, and it's this perfect combustible formula of boom, all of a sudden he's the possible number one overall pick because people start salivating over him and what the potential could be. So to me, this is all about upside, about you can see a player, oh my gosh, if he's this physically gifted, imagine what he could do in our system. I do wonder, I think it's hard to evaluate these Georgia defenders because there were so many of them that were so good and completely dominant against their opponents who didn't have as much talent. And it's a testament to the job that Kirby Smart has done recruiting this talent to one team. But I'm a little bit leery of somebody who rises this fast based on what they've done in shorts and a t-shirt. But he's going to be a good pro. To me, I think going one overall is a little bit of a reach based on what we've seen on the tape.
Well, he's definitely got the potential to. And yeah, the tape may have not demonstrated that top-end ability, but I think that's what the bet is for a lot of NFL teams or franchises, is the fact that his best football is still ahead of him. I mean, look, teams dig into these players' past back to their high school days and what they were as a recruit. And a lot of times they'll watch them grow and develop, or maybe not, throughout the course of their college career. And there is this idea that at the college level, sometimes these kids don't get developed and they don't get utilized to the best of their ability. And maybe Travon Walker falls into that case. Regardless of how you feel about him, you do see the flashes of upside. You do see the versatility in the way he can play pretty much any position along the defensive front outside of playing a nose guard. And when you're watching that group together, he stands out. And I think that says a lot about a player who's going to be mixed around a lot of other first-round picks who are up there along his side. So I think if you're getting this player, you're getting him at the right time, where he's been able to demonstrate through the underwear Olympics, if you will, just how athletic he is, just how freakish he is, and what he's going to be bringing to the next level. So I'm not so surprised about this meteoric rise, if you will. I just think the secret got out. Talking to a bunch of scouts throughout the course of the season, a lot of people like to mention this young man. They were just hoping that most people wouldn't start talking about him. Well, it's no longer a secret anymore.
So let's talk draft positioning then. I mentioned that he's the second favorite to go number one, but he's not the overwhelming, he's not the number one favorite to go number two. He's not the favorite to go number three. He's not the favorite to go number four. So there's this potential out there, but that's why his over-under draft position is set at 3.5, because while he could go 1 or 2, we just don't really know. So where do you go, Brady, at 3.5, over or under?
I'm going to take the over, and I really don't know that he drops past 4. I think there's a number of things in play. When you compare him to example for a Kayvon Thibodeau, who has probably had a more productive career, however, in a conference that, hasn't had the stiffest of competition. And maybe there are some concerns about whether or not he loves football or some of the interviews that he's done. You don't have that with Walker. You've got that with Thibodeau. So it could be a scenario where both players have a ton of upside, but you're really looking at a guy drafted this high is going to be kind of the face of your franchise, at least for this draft class. So I don't see him falling past the New York Jets. I think they could use him at the spot, as could a number of other teams in the top 3. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't go number 1. I mentioned earlier about Trent Baalke and loving upside on some of these players. I just think when it comes down to it, you drafted Trevor Lawrence last year. A tackle probably makes the most sense, even though Aiden Hutchinson's sitting right there. So when it's all said and done, I'm going to take the over. I don't feel great about it because I could see him going anywhere really in the top 4.
All right, I think I screwed this whole thing up though. So over versus under 3.5. I think he goes in the top 3, which is under 3.5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm under. So then I am right. Okay, I'm good. Because I had him under. I think he's going in the top 3. I think all this buzz about him is these teams kind of working themselves into a frenzy over what the talent could be there. So as much as I was nervous there about screwing up the whole exercise, I think ultimately he does go there. I don't think he goes number 1, but I think either Detroit or Houston will take him.
So, Danny, what would be his best fit in your opinion?
So I think Detroit. I mean, and it's just with Dan Campbell being there. I know I had Ike Ekwonu as who I think they'll end up going with, but if he doesn't, I love the fit there in Detroit of a physical team who needs some freakish athleticism up there to kind of turn things around, to create a spark on the defensive side of the ball. And when I think of Dan Campbell, I think of a team that wants to build from the inside out. And again, do they go on the offense or they go on the defensive side of the ball remains to be seen. But if they decide to go defense, I think it's a great fit for them schematically, what they want to do, physical up front, getting after the quarterbacks, and have somebody who's a dog, D-A-double-G, playing like a dog.
I mean, that could be the case. It really depends on what happens at number 1, right? I mean, if Aiden Hutchinson doesn't go number 1 and you've got the Detroit Lions not too far from Ann Arbor, Michigan, staring Aiden Hutchinson in the face, you'd be hard-pressed to think that Dan Campbell's not going to be pounding the table for a guy who would be probably doing just that for the opportunity to be a Detroit Lion. So I think it really depends on what happens at the top of the draft, if there's any movement at all, and who goes number 1 overall. I just think if you're looking between the two players, different in the sense of maybe what the upside is in Walker versus in the scheme fit versus Aiden Hutchinson, but there is that factor of, hey, he's a hometown guy. Who wouldn't want to have him, sitting there putting, fans in the seats, which really, when it's all said and done, is part of the business model of what's going to make you go. Getting a great player and being able to get people to come watch him. To me, though, the best scheme fit would be the New York Jets. So if he falls to number 4, it would make a lot of sense in this case. And this is the reason. We didn't see Carl Lawson last year for New York Jets. He was their big free agent acquisition. Showed a lot of promise and pop, got hurt, now missed the whole season. Well, he's back. And I think he takes some of the pressure off of Walker, who demonstrated the ability to be able to get after opposing quarterbacks at the college football level, but not on the level of Aiden Hutchinson, not on the level of Kayvon Thibodeau, at least throughout the course of the season. So you're talking about a guy that's all of a sudden drafted this high, and this meteoric rise we've been mentioning, taking some of that pressure off of him as he continues to develop, grow, and really mature. It would be nice to have someone opposite of him. I think the Jets are best suited for that. And Robert Saleh, who really his calling card has been on the defensive side of the ball, could help implement him along, through that process and not make it too complicated for him in trying to work his way into the NFL.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.